小交响乐团的意思呢，就是其实这个是勉强的翻译这样。你看 sinfonietta 也是一般来讲呢 ，sinfonietta 就演奏比较小型乐队的作品，你看，像弦乐的作品啊，还有其实比如说像海顿的那些早期的交响乐，都是 sinfonietta 可以演奏的。莫扎特那些交响乐团全部都是可以小交响乐团演出的。还有贝多芬的第一、第二、第三、第四这几首交响乐都可以 sinfonietta 演出的。那比如说他的第九那就不行了，呀，他的第九就不行，像其实就是这个意思。这大小的问题，演出不同的作品。
团员的多少跟那个乐器多少
都有，就是因为这需要的人不多，所以比较那个大交响乐团呢就比较小一点。呀，
我的意思说，有的是乐器，大交响乐团有，小交响乐团有。
其实需要的时候都有。比如说我们一般来讲呢，就是有弦乐啦，还有木管啦，还有时候有铜管，但是铜管不是像大交响乐团里边有4个圆号，有时候大的交响乐团有需要6个圆号、8个圆号都有呀。那个小号呢就需要起码4个了，大的交响乐团 OK， 不然的话起码也有2个，还有那个他们叫做穿泵，中国是拉管是吧？或者什么也需要3个，还有一个tuba，铜管乐就那么多了。但是在小交响乐团里边呢，一般来讲，像古典的交响乐呢，就是2个 French horn， 2个法国号，2个小号，就这样。有时候呢，就是管乐呢，木管乐呢，有时候没有长笛，有时候又没有那个黑管。早期的时候还没有用的很多那个黑管，那些小交响乐的音乐都是没有黑管的。这其实也没有什么特别的不同，就是根据这个音乐的需要。像这个英国的那个它也是一个小交响乐团的呀，它现在很多录音都录大的交响乐，就是看你需要。有时候我们有大的音乐会呀的时候，我们也需要大的乐团的时候，我们就叫多一点参加这种。
那么这次有多少人呢？一共有多少人？
我们一般来讲就10几20个人这样。10几20个人。10幾20個人。
即係有啲似室內管弦樂 chamber。
chamber orchestra
輕巧啲嘅嗰個。
chamber 即係室內啦，即係嗰個音樂廳啊，都係唔需要太大嘅。你喺呢啲音樂我哋一般嚟講就好似 Glen Gould Studio 啦，依家喺當代最好嘅室內樂嘅演出嘅音樂廳，CBC 嗰廳，佢就係300幾400人咁多。
所以我们这个小交就是每年都要找一些拿加拿大奖的年轻还是孩子，给他们机会来表演。你看，要是在大学里边读音乐，还是音乐学院里边，你想找机会跟乐队是非常困难。什么很多演奏家就是要跟乐队合作，这个机会有的是很不容易，所以我们都是提供这个给他。So Victoria。他刚刚考了10级，8岁10级拿了91分，所以他是非常有心结。
这里可不可以让我补充一下？我说赖太太何卫平女士呢？我在我这个经历里面呢，觉得她是个有点金属。那个英文叫做 Midas touch， 就是那个碰一碰那个小孩呢，他就变成金了，黄金做成的了他这个有特别的那个技能，就是这个，他专心的非常喜爱音乐，而且呢跟小孩在一起 教他音乐的时候，再一起指点他，一起唱起来。所以这个小孩呢，对音乐就非常的喜欢啊，而且呢，弹起来不是单单弹那个乐谱，是弹出的是这个音乐，是歌唱。所以这个就叫點金術、點金術啊！呢個係好高手嘅，呢個非常難得嘅一個音樂。
因为这个留在我们吃饭的时候大家谈话，这个是后话。
1、2、3。
来，请看这边。OK，1、2、3。
Hi Joyce, I know you're brought from a music family. Does that influence you go to music as a career?
Oh, definitely. For as long as I've known, music has been a part of my life. My parents were both music students in Vienna when I was only 2, and I was with them. And even as a young child, I played piano and violin, starting from 5 years old. And it was what I did every single day. And they sat with me and practiced with me, and I spent all my time playing music.
Say for your musical training or career type, do you have any difficulties or any bad things?
For my choice to be, well, I mean, I think the only thing I would say is for all of those people who would like to be a musician out there, my advice to you would be really think carefully about why you're being a musician. My father reminds me all the time when I'm struggling with because being a musician, you don't make very much money. It's not the same as being a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. You really have to love it. I know so many freelance musicians who have a few students, maybe a job here and there, but it's not a stable one. We only have one big orchestra in Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and there's only so many seats available, and it's really hard to get the job. They get filled by people from other countries. So there's a lot of struggling musicians out there. So my advice, would be if you really, really love it and you are willing to do it even without making a lot of money or any prestige, because for example, you might spend a lot of time working on something and no one hears you, or you might get a bad review, even if you did, and that's difficult. As an artist, I think it's always a struggle. So that would be my biggest struggle.
Since you say you will start to get into music so from very young age, and then what kind of music give it to you as personal accomplishment, or what about feelings about music?
What are my feelings about music? Well, I think it's hard to say. Music is on the one hand, it's very complicated as a musician. When you're working with one piece of music, all of the different ideas and interpretations that you can draw from it. It's also a social thing. You perform with people, you are communicating, but on a very, very personal level, music is a very spiritual thing. And I think it's not just for me personally as a musician, but I think for anybody out there, whether you are a music lover and you listen to music, or if you are an amateur musician, when you play music, it speaks to your soul. And it's not something you can write down on paper. I did my master's in music, and I had to write a lot of essays about certain composers or musical aspects, and I had to write in a very, very strict way. So but it doesn't really explain what music does to a person when you listen to a beautiful piece of music, and it makes you feel in love, or it makes you feel happy, or makes you feel really sad, or makes you feel like giving a lot of money to charity. Or music has this amazing magical way of making a person feel inspired, or creative, or poetic, or heroic, or it's an amazing magical element.
You just mentioned some general senses. What music really brings to you, or what inspires you?
What does music bring to me?
Yeah, or inspires you. Inspires you, like how?
What does it do for me personally?
Yeah. Your personal feeling about music, this thing.
That's a really hard question.
For example, you as I said, you brought up in the music family.
Yes.
Now you take music as your career.
Right.
Right. So your job, your bread earnings type. and then now you see that it's still an interest, it's still a passion, or you kind of see it like a profession?
Ah, I see what you're asking. Okay, it's a combination. As I mentioned, I think it's difficult because to make music come alive, there's a lot of other things that have to happen. I have to make concerts for myself. I have to practice even when I don't want to practice. I have to keep myself in shape, just like an athlete does. You know, you have to run. I have to practice. I have to move my fingers. There's a lot of things I can't do. You know, for a long time I couldn't do a lot of sports, and you can't go out when you want to. You have to sacrifice time, and also it's very difficult because when you have for example, if you work in an office or you work for a company, you have to go from 9 to 5, and you have to do it because otherwise you'll get fired. For me, I have to make it myself, and so that's a big struggle. Sometimes I don't want to, and I have to. So those are the struggles that make me sometimes forget what music really means to me, which is, as I mentioned earlier, it's just something that I do. It makes me a better person. It's my way of contributing to people. It's my way of making people happy or sad, or it's my way of speaking to people. I'm hoping to bring music to those who are less fortunate, for those who can't afford to go to concerts. I often do a lot of free concerts. Music for me is a way of communicating with the world.
Let's talk about classical music. Some people say that classical music is just for a small group of people who are minorities.
Yeah.
How to popularize it and how to promoting classical music to the general mass.
That's the $1 million question. Actually, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and ironically, because I have a lot of friends who have been asking me the same thing. In the past, there have been things that have become obsolete because people don't like it anymore. They don't need it. You know, for example, typewriters. Nobody really uses typewriters because we've got computers now, or tape players as opposed to CD Walkmans. And classical music, although it's been around for hundreds of years, it's sort of falling into that category of becoming obsolete, or rather, it's very exclusive. It's just for people who, it seems to be just for people who understand classical music, or it's for a higher group of people. And that's a struggle I fight with all the time, trying to sell tickets for our concerts. People like to listen to popular music, and they would rather just do that. Classical music's not interesting to them because it requires what they believe more cerebral power to understand. Even going to concerts, let's say you're a classical music lover, but you have CDs at home. I've had people say to me, I'd rather listen to my CD rather than come to a concert because I can listen to it in my home in whatever time I choose to, and it's perfect because it's been tampered, so it's perfect. So the question you ask, I don't have an answer for, because it's also a question I ask myself. The best I can do is what I'm doing now, which is I teach music. I try to teach it with as much integrity as possible to young children, to their parents, and that's why I'm doing this orchestra, and I'm hoping to reach out to people who don't know anything about classical music. We hire marketing people to help us make it look, more mass market. For example, the movie Amadeus about Mozart, it was kind of a cool movie. I think that's the only way we're trying to keep it alive, but it's true, just like typewriters, classical music can become obsolete, and it doesn't mean that the typewriter is no good. It's just that I think people nowadays don't have time to listen to a full symphony. A symphony takes a long time to listen to, and people like to, the quick fix, and I think popular music speaks to the masses. But my personal feeling is that we still have hope yet. I think that we might be at a stage right now where classical music is not as popular, but hopefully with something like this orchestra, we will become more popularized again.